Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about the potentially one of the last times we're going to be talking about the Nintendo versus Pocketpair patent legal saga. Basically one of the hopefully few last times. There's still technically going to be some follow-ups, but we're getting close to the end hopefully. And then we're going to be talking about how even right after Xbox finally seems like they're winning, they just start losing again all of a sudden because they're closing down a bunch of studios, or at least in talks with studios about either going independent with them or shutting them down all entirely. That is what we're going to be talking about today. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do these types of videos on Monday, so come to the channel on Monday. If you'd like to check out other types of videos, I also upload on Friday as well as shorts and stuff like that. If you'd like to support Super directly, please go over to poggers.shop, linked in the description. You get 10% off of anything in their store, whether it be their energy drink, hydration drink, or sleep aid mixes, as well as their shaky cups. Now let's get straight into the video. So starting with the fact that Nintendo versus Pocketpair, or Nintendo versus Palworld, is in its final probably few months, most likely potentially half a year if you want to be super technical about it, because once again this is the legal system, so it's going to take a while for this stuff to go through it. But there is a scheduled presentation of evidence for October 1st of this year and an opinion expression on November 9th, 2026. GamesFry has been covering this the whole time, and they are the people that I trust the most when it comes to their information. And so they have said when it comes to this case is basically Nintendo has all in purposes lost this case. Now, once again, it is not technically over, but it is pretty much as close to confirmation that they have lost, because they have to narrow their complaint to older versions of Palworld, because Palworld is going into 1.0 in July, and they've had to narrow the scope of the case going all the way to older versions of Palworld, which is not a good case, meaning like it doesn't actually really matter, because the older versions of Palworld don't matter that much. It's the newer versions that are obviously in the public. And then even with that, let's say somehow they successfully go over all the things that they've been trying to do and they win the case. They're only allowed to get money from Pocketpair within the terms of that version, which according to GamesFry is about 5 million yen, which is about 30,000 US dollars, because they are limited to when they can accept damages for the litigation, because it has to be within that type of window when that version was there. Because it is now about not the commercial terms, it is about hypothetical injunctions that doesn't apply to current product versions, is what GamesFry have said, which makes sense because they've changed the scope of the case to older versions. So the newer versions don't matter. So it doesn't matter if Palworld continues selling. And it makes it almost even harder to to win the case because of these changes, because Pocketpair did a lot of changes because of the patents, like the small things that they had to do, like you can no longer throw the PAL spheres, they just appear beside you now, or certain mounts you can't do as well. So even though that the scope changes probably made it so they think they can win it more, but like even then it doesn't actually matter because they don't win a lot. And honestly, I don't see them winning anyway, because Pocketpair has done an amazing job at defending themselves, and part of their defense was literally using an expert in the field, multiple experts in the field, as well as doing a bunch of the type of stuff that we talked about in other videos when it comes to proving the point that they don't own these types of mechanics, and that these type of mechanics existed before even the patents were filed. And I think this is the final stages of this lawsuit, and it looks like Pocketpair has survived, which is really good, and I'm really glad about this, because it seems that luckily the money didn't run out for Pocketpair. That was like the biggest concern, because pretty much everyone that I saw, or even anyone that saw this lawsuit or this patent infringement suit, basically said Nintendo doesn't own any of that. Like, they don't own that concept. There's no way you can win this. And then throughout the legal system, it was pretty much proven that, yeah, Nintendo's case is very weak, even with Nintendo lawyers, because Nintendo lawyers are really good. I'm not going to say that they're not, but like the case is just weak. It's a very weak case. So the main worry I had was Pocketpair was going to have to submit to Nintendo because they just ran out of money. They just couldn't keep up with the legal fees and the legal costs, but it looks like it is going to be fine. it's going to survive, and luckily, this is just going to be an interesting saga, I guess, and hopefully a future reason for other companies to not try and do this, because if Nintendo can't prove this and Nintendo can't do this, like how can you do this? There are some things obviously where they were successful with like the system in Shadow of Mordor, the Nemesis system, which I always have hated Warner Brothers for doing, because basically no game has ever used that system ever again, because no one can, or no one wants to pay them to use it. So this is a really good win for basically all gamers in general, and hopefully this means that Pocketpair can finally just like put this behind them and then like completely just move on. I mean, to be fair, I'm sure the devs haven't made that much time. They haven't done that much difference for this lawsuit, but it'll be nice to not have it looming over their shoulders or heads, because like there's always the chance that Nintendo just tries to bury them. But now it's pretty much confirmed that Nintendo cannot do that, and even if they somehow win, they don't even win that much money, and Pocketpair can afford that. But like I said, I don't think they're going to win. It's very unlikely through all the experts and people that I've been looking and paying attention to. Basically, no one thinks they can win, because this is even weaker case than it was before, and pretty much both the Japanese patent office and the US state patent and trademark office both basically agree with Pocketpair that it's like you don't own this stuff. And like I said, even if they do win it, it's specifically only the Japanese side, because the US side threw out their patents. They have to redo their patents because they just were proven to not be eligible for this type of stuff, which we covered before as well. So it's really nice that Pocketpair has been managed to do this. I'm excited for Palworld 1.0, and I'm just hope that this lawsuit kind of brings a precedent to not try and do this for other companies, because once again, this is Nintendo. If you have Nintendo money and Nintendo can't do it, how can you do it to like the smaller companies? So hopefully this means it'll be fine and nothing like this will happen in the future, because this stuff is really dumb. I don't like being able to try to patent or any type of legal word mechanics in video games. Like, don't get me wrong. There are things you need to protect with copyright and all the patents and stuff like that. But when it comes to video games, gameplay mechanics should not be copyrighted or patented in any way. So I'm glad that this case has gone this way. And hopefully this is the first or second last time we talk about this, because there is the trial on October 1st and the expressing of opinions on November 9th. So potentially 2 more times that we need to talk about this, but maybe 3 more times, because the 1 more time for the October 1st stuff, November 9th stuff, and then when they actually make a decision, because I don't think an expressive opinion is an official decision, but we'll have to see. Moving on to Xbox. Unfortunately, while we have had pretty good news when it comes to Xbox recently because of the Xbox Game Showcase, unfortunately, it looks like the negative side of the new management, Asha, is finally hitting Xbox, because multiple studios seem to be in fear of shutting down, and one has been shut down, at least according to IGN. South of Midnight developer Compulsion Games, which sucks because South of Midnight was a pretty decent game. It just didn't sell very well, unfortunately. And they also made We Happy Few, which was a very complicated game. But Compulsion Games seemingly has had major layoffs. Over up to 90 staff, basically, is what Kotaku was reporting, that IGN says as well. And unfortunately, it seems that this is the end of the studio. Technically, they haven't been officially closed down as of me recording this video, but like when you lay off most of your staff, I don't understand how you make video games under Microsoft. So I unfortunately feel like this is going to be a slow death for a lot of these companies under the new Microsoft management, because they need to make games that sell and they need to make money. And unfortunately, that might sound like a simple task, but I just don't see it happening, because unfortunately no one buys Xbox games anymore, because your games are being made to be put on Game Pass, and that doesn't sell units. That just gives Game Pass stuff, and that's hard to quantify. And studios like Compulsion Games, they don't make the AAA big sellers, which is like one of the biggest problems. I feel like a lot of the studios that under Phil Spencer Xbox bought, they're not the companies that make big AAA 10 million units sold game developers. They're like the, oh, we sold 1 million copies, that's a crazy big success type of developers. And that's just not what Microsoft is. Like, Microsoft needs big AAA games to sell Xboxes now, especially under the new management with Asha, when saying, oh, we're going back to exclusives, we're going back to Xbox. They did this whole thing about being named Xbox instead of Microsoft Game Studios, because before there were Microsoft Studios, now they're Xbox Game Studios. Like, they're bringing back the Xbox brand, basically. And so, like, these guys need to sell units, which is also slightly strange because you would think that now that they're like, oh, we're going to sell exclusively on Xbox, get all the studios you purchased over the last 10 years to make exclusive Xbox games. Like, just start cranking out games to prove to the consumer that you are committing to it. But I mean, I guess they're trying to do that with the new Gears game and maybe the new Halo game that isn't the remaster and something else. I guess the Bethesda games as well. But I don't know. I think that's going to take too long. I'm worried, but that's going to take too long for Xbox, because I think the problem is that they went too hard into buying all these studios with Phil Spencer and just not enough output. So there needs to be more games, but unfortunately now that the new management's over, they need to start making money. And that's a really big problem, which is why another two companies that are under really big scrutiny is Ninja Theory and Double Fine, because both of those companies do not make games that sell crazy amounts. Ninja Theory are the people that are making that made Hellblade, and that literally announced the new game during Xbox Game Showcase a couple weeks ago at this point, and they're talking about either closing them down or maybe buying themselves out to go independent, which I hope they do, honestly, because I think both of these companies, all of the three of these companies, make good games. The problem is that it seems like Microsoft needs games that sell a lot more than what these guys make. Because, especially for Double Fine has never made games that are crazy successful in terms of financial sales. Their games can be very interesting and really artistically successful, but unfortunately, those games don't really make a ton of money. And when you're under Microsoft, that matters a lot more. Like, if you're an indie company, a small indie company with a couple, maybe double digits at most employees, probably single digits, you can handle your game not selling millions of copies. If your game sells thousands of copies, I'm sure you'll be happy, or tens of thousands, I'm sure you're even more happy, because there's more of an expectation of it not selling like crazy. But when you're under Microsoft and making Microsoft games, that matters a lot more. And unfortunately, it just seems like all of their games have failed really hard, especially Double Fine, I feel like, because Ninja Theory's games, like the first Hellblade game, I think was a pretty good success, but ever since then, they haven't really been able to catch it again. And Double Fine, most of their games have always been financial failures in a lot of way. The Lighthouse game, the Keeper game, and the other party game that they tried to make both failed pretty hard, to the point where I even forgot that Keeper came out, and I didn't remember Kalin, the party game that they made, until I read it in this article by IGN, because like, oh yeah, I forgot they made that game. So obviously it's not going very well for them. And unfortunately, this is probably going to be a long string of things of Xbox Studios closing down, because unfortunately it's just one of those things where they need to start making money and these companies don't make the money. And it sucks. But I mean, the good thing is that, hey, at least these people can maybe jump back into it somehow with indie game studios. Because I mean, I feel like these guys are probably better in the indie/AA scene anyway than the AAA scene, because the AAA scene is just a different beast when it comes to game development, and also a huge waste of money a lot of times. I feel like AAA game development, the reason they need to sell so much stuff is because they waste so much money and so much time on things that don't matter. So I feel like they could go back to where probably they'd be better at and do more better things, because like, I think Double Fine should still exist. I think Ninja Theory should still exist. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to save themselves. I don't see anyone willing to buy them out, because that just brings it into some weird territory of like, then you still owe someone and you're still not going to be able to pay that back, because once again, your games don't sell crazy amounts because you guys make very niche games. To be fair, the new Senua game does look more approachable. Like, it's not as a niche game as it could be. It looks a little bit more actiony and it looks a little bit more accessible for a modern gamer audience and not as niche. But fortunately, I think it's just too late. I just honestly think it's too late. And we're going to have to see if the Xbox boss, Asha, how big this reset that she said was going to happen. And because, like, they just expanded way too aggressively with Phil Spencer with basically nothing to show for itself. Because a lot of these things are just bad. Like, even in the quote, the studios are most exposed are brilliant for prestige and rotten for the spreadsheet. And Xbox cares a lot about the spreadsheet now. Because, like, yeah, names like Double Fine and Ninja Theory are great for prestige, but they don't sell. And that's what the spreadsheet cares about. So hopefully we'll see, like, how badly it actually goes, but I feel like this is going to be an ongoing story throughout the coming weeks and months of just more studios either being closed down or managing to survive and become independent, because I don't see a happy ending, unfortunately, right now for these studios. That is all we're going to be talking about today. Thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I do these types of videos on Mondays, and I do other types of videos on Fridays. We've been checking out a lot of Steam demos recently because of Steam Netflix as well. So come to the channel on either Mondays or Fridays, or to watch the shorts. I'd love to have your opinion on those as well. If you'd like support directly, please go to Patreon at patreon.com/technojelly. You can join all of these nice people in the credits, as well as a once a month live stream that we do that you can vote on monthly. Unfortunately, because of timing, this month's live stream is going to be in next month, but then we'll just have 2 streams next month. It's fine. If you'd like to support super directly, please remember to use code technojelly at poggers.shop. Linked in the description. You get 10% off of any of their products, whether it be their hydration drink, energy drink, or sleep aid mixes, as well as their shaker cups. Remember, Poggers.shop, 10% off using code TechnoJelly. I have a Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads, all at the TechnoJelly. Please click or tap my face for more videos, and I'm going to see you in those videos. Goodbye, everyone.